Hello everyone, it's Theme Park Avenue, I'm Eric. Six Flags has an abundance of roller coasters around the world, and today, I'm ranking the top 50 Six Flags roller coasters that I've ridden. Before diving into the list, I must get a few things out of the way. First of all, I've not ridden every Six Flags roller coaster. Some prominent ones that may have made the list had I ridden them are Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, American Thunder, and the top 2 of Six Flags Mexico. So in this list, I'm going to be talking about my 50 favorites. Know that it's very subjective, and that you are highly unlikely to agree with most picks. I will give reasoning for each one and talk about which park each one is in. So let's start with some honorable mentions, ones that didn't quite make the cut. Joker's Jinx at Six Flags America, Wild One at Six Flags America, the S&S 4D Free Spins, Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas, Poltergeist at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, Superman Escape from Krypton backwards version only at Magic Mountain, forward did not stand a chance, West Coast Racers at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and Flash Vertical Velocity at Six Flags Great America. Now let's get to the top 50. Number 50 is Runaway Mountain at Six Flags Over Texas. A shocking first pick for sure, but that's part of the fun. I find Runaway Mountain to be quite underrated. As far as premier rides goes, it might be one of their better ones. It has one twisted drop in the middle of the ride. That is one of the best elements on any roller coaster in Six Flags Over Texas. The darkness adds a lot, and it's a very fun roller coaster that I'm not even sure I'd classify as family. Number 49 is Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags Magic Mountain. My favorite stand-up coaster definitely has gotten rougher. I still think its layout is great, so it earned a spot. That said, it could have been much higher otherwise. Number 48 is Viper at Six Flags Great America. This wooden coaster is quite long and fun. A bit bumpy indeed, but I enjoy it. I don't think it's one of the best wooden coasters at Six Flags parks, but still very good. Number 47 is Predator at Darien Lake. Predator has the Titan track, and it's very jarring, this transition from rough to smooth, but I still enjoy it. And the ride's not even that rough. Even if it is, it's not painful for me. There's great airtime and a good sense of speed, and it's a strong wooden coaster overall. Number 46 is Tantrum at Darien Lake. This Gerstlauer I find to be a bit underrated. It is short, but there's really nothing I can fault on the ride. Good restraints, excellent first drop, smooth the whole way through, good speed, excellent elements. If it had more to it, it could be much higher. Number 45 is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Of the Skyrocket 2 coasters I've ridden, this is the one that I like. I think the restraints are not that bad, the launches are fairly powerful, and I think it's an intense, fast, and uniquely paced ride. The slow parts don't really bother me that much, and I think this is an underrated launch coaster overall. Number 44 is Full Throttle at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This launch coaster I would love to put higher. Everything about it is great, but unfortunately, it's what the ride doesn't have that kind of holds it back. Other rides on this list have more to them. I love that vertical loop, I like the backward launch, I like the airtime, I like every element on this. But the ride is lacking, and the best elements aren't quite enough to compensate for a lack of a huge layout. Number 43 is Comet at the Great Escape. Great Escape is far from my favorite park, but I do enjoy its number 1 quite a bit. You have excellent airtime, a good sense of speed, and it's a very smooth wooden coaster overall. It's definitely well maintained, and I think it's a must for pretty much any old wooden coaster enthusiast. Number 42 is American Eagle at Six Flags Great America. Apart from the Helix, this is an awesome wooden coaster. The Helix is just weird in its slowness and its bumpiness, but the rest of the ride has an insane sense of speed that I don't think any other wooden coaster, with the exception of one I'll get to much later, has at Six Flags parks. You also have some fantastic airtime, and even though it doesn't race anymore, I like this ride quite a bit. Number 41 is Apocalypse the Ride at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This ride does not mess around in terms of pacing. I get that it's not the most airtime focus of wooden coasters, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like the station flyby. It's smoother than all the previous mentioned ones because the Helix holds American Eagle back a bit. and I think it's a great wooden coaster to have at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Number 40 is Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America. This is a fun hyper, though certainly a flawed one. I like the speed, the airtime, the first drop, the length, and even the setting to an extent. However, this ride is among the roughest hyper coasters I've done. The straight track parts really do feel way longer than they should, and there's just some minor issues I have with the layout and pacing, and with fine tuning this could have easily been top 20. Number 39 is Ride of Steel at Darien Lake. Pretty much exactly the same in terms of quality for me. I give it a slight edge because the straight track parts feel shorter and more fun going over the water. Number 38 is Batwing at Six Flags America. This, I think, is an underrated roller coaster. The Vekoma Flying Dutchmans, they vary in quality. I miss Firehawk, and this is just as good as Firehawk was. I think the helix near the ground is quite terrifying. The loop is intense. It's a fairly comfortable ride despite what many have said, and I think it is definitely my favorite at Six Flags America, and I think it deserves a bit more credit overall. Number 37 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags Over Texas. I'm separating every Batman the Ride and every clone because they are not exactly the same in quality. I very much enjoy all of them. This is the weakest one for being a bit slower and a bit rougher than the others, but I still think it's a fantastic ride. Number 36 is Les Vampires, which is Laurent's Batman the Ride clone. This one is a bit bumpier than some above it, but it still has the great intensity, speed, and inversions of all the Batman the Rides. And honestly, the fact that these are ranking above hypers and great launch coasters should speak to how underrated the Batman the Ride inverts really are. Number 35 is Goliath at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This one gives foot numbness more than any other Batman the Ride, hands down. But it's still good. It has basically Montu's new color scheme, and I think the setting is interesting. I know it's along the parking lot, but I like how you kind of go straight toward the entrance of the park as you dive. And it's definitely a good ride overall, though there are a few other standout Batman the Rides above it. Number 34 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags St. Louis. This one's color scheme is excellent, and it's among the most intense of any of them. It just doesn't quite rank above a few awesome Batman the Ride clones. Number 33 is Medusa at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. In between the best Batman clones and the less best Batman clones is this awesome floorless coaster with great elements like the first drop, vertical loop, sidewinder, and overall this is just quite the awesome experience as far as classic sort of B&M 90s looping coasters go. It's one of my favorite floorless coasters. I very much enjoy it. I think it's possibly, for many, best ride at Discovery Kingdom, and I totally understand why. Number 32 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great Adventure. This one is intense, and certainly above the other Batmans I named, though not quite best of the best of those, but points go to having by far the best color scheme of them all. And many of them look great, so that's saying quite a bit. Number 31 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags Magic Mountain. A step up in intensity compared to Great Adventures, but not much else to say about it. Number 30 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great America. This Batman clone has the best use of setting and terrain, as it was the original, and that adds so much to the experience. I was considering putting this above one other Batman clone, but it didn't quite get up there, even though it's intense, fun, smooth, and honestly, an awesome ride. Number 29 is Batman the Ride at Six Flags Over Georgia. This one runs better than any of the others, for sure, and that's why it got the highest spot of the Batman clones. Now we're done with Batman the Ride. Number 28 is Titan at Six Flags Over Texas. This hypercoaster has its flaws. The mid-course brake run's not good, the airtime hill doesn't really give anything, and the first drop is underwhelming. However, many sleep on the quite intense turns in between these elements. I know these aren't usually the kinds of elements you expect to praise on a hypercoaster, but they are the best part of this one, and they are awesome and forceful. Number 27 is Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast at Six Flags St. Louis. An awesome launch coaster with an odd layout and great intensity. We'll get to the other Mr. Freeze a bit later though. Number 26 is Daredevil Dive. Daredevil Dive at Six Flags Over Georgia is my favorite of Gerstlauer roller coasters. Granted, I've done very few, but it's an intense, fast, excellent inversion-filled ride, and it's only held back a little bit by the second half not carrying the same great sense of speed as the first, but that's a nitpick, and it's still one of my favorite rides at Six Flags Over Georgia. Number 25 is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great Adventure. Excellent flying coaster. I think most flying coasters are underrated, and this one's just fun. The graceful parts are enjoyable, the pretzel loop is awesome, and the twist near the end is also quite fun. Number 24 is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great America. Same layout and all. It gets a slight edge because I think it was a bit more intense overall, and also because of some really funny experiences I've had on this ride. Number 23 is Medusa at Six Flags Great Adventure. Previously known as Bizarro, this floorless coaster is unbelievably good. Very intense, smooth, great elements, even some airtime, and the fact that this is a mirror image of Scream at Magic Mountain makes no sense to me because of how much better this one is. The bizarre, pun not intended, theming elements of this one are also quite fun. The fact that fire works on this one, unlike X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain, is fun. And the set pieces have nothing to do with Medusa now, but it's still quite fun and enjoyable. Number 22 is Superman Krypton Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This one gets a slight edge for its excellent terrain usage. I don't think it holds its speed as well as either Medusa, but it has better elements. The vertical loop is easily the best of any floorless. And going over the quarry multiple times, I love that. This ride is a phenomenal one for sure. Number 21 is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Over Georgia. Certainly ranking above the other Superman flying coasters because of the setting. This was the original, and similar to Batman the Ride, it uses the setting phenomenally. The tunnel is a standout moment. Number 20 is Max Force. This ranking so high was honestly a bit of a surprise to me because I find this ride a bit overrated. I love the launch, and the 0G roll is one of the best inversions I've done. That said, the other parts are weird and don't do a whole lot for me. I think the shining moments of this ride really hold it up, and it gets an edge over Full Throttle because, honestly, I think those elements are way better, and Full Throttle has a stop that feels far more abrupt, despite it being a longer ride. So this is basically Full Throttle 2.0 and much better. Number 19 is Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast at Six Flags Over Texas. This ranks significantly higher than St. Louis for being better in every possible way. Smoother, faster, more intense, the forces pulled are much more versatile going forward and backward, and I have a few biases because I think the paint job is better on this one, and my most recent ride had me going down from the spike right as the mini mine train was going, and that was a very fun timing moment. Number 18 is Goliath at La Ronde. Had to make it clear which Goliath it was. This is an underrated one. Granted, no one really talks about good stuff at La Ronde, but this ride has abundant and fantastic floater airtime. The first drop, the hills, even the turnaround, all of it is great. I love the setting of the ride, and the final hills provide ejector and are quite sudden. It's a simple layout, but a very effective one. Number 17 is Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This is not my favorite B&M Hyper, but I love all of them. This one is slightly below the others by like maybe 2 spots in my rankings overall, just because I think others had a bit more airtime to them. This one still delivers though, and even has some intense moments. It doesn't have quite as much floater as maybe even Goliath, but it's a phenomenal ride. First drop great, better turnaround than Goliath, and I think it's certainly a phenomenal one, and one of the best at Great Adventure. Number 16 is Jersey Devil Coaster. No one likes this ride that much, but I thought everything besides restraints was good. I love the first drop. The stall is phenomenal. All the airtime moments deliver, the ride feels long, it has a great sense of speed, the mid-course did not slow it down at all. The only flaw is that the restraints are quite honestly demonic. My brother hates them, and it brings down the ride a lot for him. I can certainly live with the restraints being as bad as they are, and still enjoy the ride. Because they don't hurt on the ride, it's just once you're getting off, you realize how much they are digging into your skin. Number 15 is Twisted Cyclone the weakest of the RMC hybrids, but still a great ride. It has top tier inversions and a few good airtime moments, though it is shorter than the others, and it doesn't have the best pacing of them. That said, all of the RMC hybrids are fantastic rides, so this earned a high spot. Number 14 is X2, an upset indeed, but X2 does not give the ride experience for me that many would put in the number 1 spot. In my opinion, the best parts of X2 are phenomenal. When you have the spectacular first drop, even the lift hill leading up to it, and a few very disorienting moments. The issue, though, falls in the ending, with a particularly bumpy turn that in every seat I've ever had has given me quite a bit of pain, and it leaves a sour taste in your mouth at the end of the ride. The rest of the ride is great, but the final fourth of it or so does hold it back a little. Number 13 is, oh boy, X-Flight at Six Flags Great America. I know everyone will be very upset to see this so high, but honestly, this has all of the things that I like in a roller coaster, and it doesn't have the pain of X2 for me. Every element on this one is nailed. The pacing is the best of the wing coasters. It has a beautiful setting. It's a graceful and fun ride. And the bumpy helix at the end is not nearly as bad as X2 stuff. And if you get an inside seat, especially in the front area, you will think it's a perfectly smooth ride the whole way through. Because this ride, I consider to be one of the most underrated roller coasters out there. And I know some people really don't like X-Flight and love X2 and they hate the list because of where I ranked each one. But I'm sorry, roller coasters are about fun for me, not just intensity. And X-Flight delivers on the fun aspect a lot more. Number 12 is Goliath at Six Flags Great America, getting a slight edge over some RMCs because the elements are top-notch. The first drop, the airtime hill, the dive loop, and the stall, all phenomenal. Well above all the other elements on short rides so far. And that is why I'm able to forgive the duration a bit more than others, though this still does rank lower than it would because it's a short ride. So I have to say, compared to, for example, Max Force, or even Mr. Freeze, and especially Full Throttle, this ride's elements stand well above the rest. Number 11 is Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain, the best flying coaster, and one of the most perfect roller coasters out there, honestly. Even though there are others that give better moments for me, everything from the graceful nature of flying over at a very good speed, the beautiful mountain terrain, to the demonic pretzel loop, to the other inversions, perfect pacing, and it's just the ultimate combination of fun and thrilling. And it's very much one of my favorite rides out there. Number 10 is Raging Bull, one of the most fun roller coasters I've ever ridden. The first drop and airtime hills deliver, especially in the back row. The rest of it, some may call meandering, but because you have a great sense of speed and a lot of elevation changes, I think it is just fun. And that's the best way to describe it. I love a ride on Raging Bull, the scale of everything, and the turns and smaller hills, even if they don't technically give the greatest forces, I enjoy them. And Raging Bull is a fantastic ride. Number 9 is Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia. Definitely the best of the Goliaths and the best of the B&M Hypers in Six Flags. I think this layout is possibly the best, besides maybe Diamondback, of the B&M Hypers. The first drop, large floater hills, helix, and ejector hills at the end are great. I love how this ride takes you out of the park. It's a long ride. The valleys are not as rough as I heard from some people, and I very much enjoy the ride, even more so than Raging Bull. Number 8 is El Toro, a controversial pick for sure. Number 1 for many, I know, but this ride has its flaws. So the first part of the ride, first half or so, is amazing. First drop, camelbacks, they are some of the best elements, especially airtime moments, of any roller coaster. However, the ride does jackhammer in every row at some point on the ride, and if it did not, it would be more enjoyable. I also must say the second half of the ride doesn't have quite as much speed, and definitely not as much airtime, as the first. So I don't think I enjoy the ride quite as much as the top 7. Number 7 is Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England. This is a fantastic RMC hybrid. Its final third does lose speed, but there are no complaints I have about this ride. You have excellent airtime, excellent inversions, it's smooth like most RMC hybrids are, and I don't dislike anything about the ride, and it's just wonderful. Number 6 is New Texas Giant. Yes, above Wicked Cyclone, I know it's crazy. Wicked Cyclone is objectively the better layout, but I have more fun on New Texas Giant. There's something about its grand layout, and the many dives in and out of tunnels that you do that make up for the lack of speed in the second half. It's not as crazy or forceful, maybe, as some of the other RMCs that are even below this one, but it's so much fun. It's like Raging Bull in hybrid form, and I love that, and that's why it's one of my favorite roller coasters and one of the most underrated roller coasters I've ridden. Number 5 is Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Another some may be shocked as above Wicked Cyclone, but unlike with New Texas Giant, I just think Joker's way better, honestly. It doesn't lose speed at all. It has better inversions for sure. The airtime is on par, it feels longer, and the pre-section definitely earns points on Joker. I think the first drop isn't quite as fun as some have said on Joker, but the rest of the ride is perfect, and it definitely earned a top 5 spot. Number 4 is King Dakar at Six Flags Great Adventure. Best ride at Great Adventure for me because I have never found it rough, and that launch is crazy. It builds up speed in a way that Dragster does not. You're really pushed back, and it's possibly the most intense roller coaster I've ever ridden. It's such a rush, and honestly, there's no better way to describe it. An adrenaline rush is something I love on a roller coaster, and it's not quite as extreme per se as something like X2, but I have just as much fun with the crazy forces pulled on this as I do with a fun long ride like Raging Bull. Number 3 is Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. This ride is best described as an experience. It's not just a hypercoaster the way many others are. You start with large, sprawling hills along the river, go into some theming moments, followed by one of the best airtime moments ever, and then you just go through turns that have better speed than Raging Bull, and it feels like more than any other ride that's themed to a DC character, you really are like Superman flying along the track. The music on the way up adds a lot, and the ride provides the fun of Raging Bull, but with better airtime and better forces, and I think, even though the restraints are not perfect, they don't take away that much from the ride, and it is absolutely elite. Number 2 is Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. What an awesome ride this one is. First drop, inversion up to the quarry wall, dive off quarry wall, other dive off quarry wall. The use of the quarry is even better than Superman, and the elements that don't really focus on the quarry wall are some of the best RMCs crafted. I didn't find the speed to be lost very much in any row when we were on the quarry, so I think this ride gets a bit of flack in that regard that it does not deserve. This is easily one of the best roller coasters I've ever ridden. But number 1 had to be Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Even when it's not dueling, the ride is amazing. Spectacular, marvelous, wonderful. Any word you can think of to describe this ride. It works, as long as it's a positive connotation. Because the first drop, despite the size, is pretty much on par with something like Steel Vengeance. And you have awesome airtime moments, you have the stall, the other inversions, the fact that you're kind of weaving through another roller coaster's layout even when it's not dueling. The ride is fun, and does everything an RMC is supposed to. The only minor nitpick I have is the lift hill the second time around. If you're not dueling, can kind of be a bit of a weird moment that kind of is awkward in between the two awesome layouts. That said, I love Twisted Colossus, and I think it's the best roller coaster at any Six Flags park. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember that these rankings are not set in stone based on criteria. It really is just talking about which one I like better, and me trying to justify each ranking. Subscribe for more theme park content. I'll see you next time.